So yeah, Red River rivalry is the best rivalry in the league. Day one. Oh, hang on a second. Whoa. All right. Whoa. I think people could potentially push back on that. I would like to maybe find out what people think. Hello and welcome in. It's Always College Football. I'm Greg McElroy, and today is a very special edition of Always College Football. We're on the road, and the football season has officially kicked off. Well, unofficially official. It's SEC Media Days. Today is July 15th, and it's the start of talking season, which means we are full speed ahead into fall camp here in a couple weeks. We will have 4 coaches taking the podium today. I don't know if you can see behind me. That's the podium right back there. For those that are listening on the podcast, it's just a gigantic ballroom here in Dallas, Texas. It really does ring true. After having done this event in Atlanta, in Nashville, in Birmingham, and now in Dallas for the very first time, it does ring true. Everything is bigger than Texas. This is the most gigantic ballroom ever. And looking at the credentialed media members, the sheer quantity of media members from Austin, Texas that will be here covering the Longhorns is pretty mind-blowing. So they are all in on being a part of the SEC, which is now coined a motto, and it's kind of all over the place, 16 strong. So it should be a lot of fun today. LSU will take the podium today, South Carolina, Ole Miss, and I believe Vanderbilt? I don't know. I can't keep track of who's who. I just know LSU's first. So I will start with LSU. And then we will address the others as they come along. But what we decided to do today for today's show, look, you're going to get plenty of access, plenty of interviews, plenty of discussions with your favorite players, with your favorite teams, with your favorite coach here in the next few days. So we found, and this being our third iteration of covering Media Days, we found I just want to put together a list of wishes. Like, what do I want this week to be? Because me breaking down LSU with Brian Kelly breaking down LSU for 30 minutes feels counterproductive. So we put together a list, our top 10 things that we are wishing for at SEC Media Days. Let's dive in at number 10. All right, the 10 wishes that we have for SEC Media Days. We went through a handful of different things. Like, I work at ESPN, and I've had to do a few different things in the last few months with the SEC moving to ABC from CBS. Had to go up to New York and do some things on behalf of the ABC affiliates. So there have probably been 3 or 4 instances this offseason where I thought we were going to find out about the presentation of the SEC on ABC. So basically that's a long way, and I'm not going to get down like the TV rabbit hole here, all right? Because I know you don't care, and frankly, I don't really care that much either in some cases. Like, there's going to be some different elements that will be presented this week that the fans will see. It's going to be super cool. I think you'll like it. But what I'm most interested in, and what I really, really hope that we find out this week, and this is number 10, I really hope we hear the SEC on ABC theme music for the very first time. Why? Because I think back watching SEC games at 2:30 on CBS, and it became synonymous with a specific song. You guys know the song. I'm not going to sing it for you because I'm not a good singer. I'm not even going to try. But when you turned on Vern Lundquist and Gary Danielson, or in recent years, Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson, when you turned on CBS at 2:30, you knew what time, or 3:30 or 2:30, depending on what time zone you were in, you knew what song you were going to hear. Well, I think there's a possibility, and I don't know. Like I said, this is a wish. I want to hear the SEC on ABC music for the very first time. I don't know what it'll be. Part of me really wants it to be old school, like ABC Sports. You can go look that up on YouTube or one of these other platforms, or the BCS theme or something like that. That would be super cool to bring those things back, but I don't know if that's a possibility, but that's what I'm hoping for. That is number 10. I hope we hear that music, the theme music that we'll hear now at 3:30 Eastern every single Saturday for the first time. At number 9, I really hope that the media poll creates great debate before the season starts. And it feels a little bit let's just be real. Georgia's going to be picked to win the league. Okay, I think I would be, even though we are in Dallas, there will be more Longhorn coverage here. There will be more Aggie coverage here. I still think Georgia's going to be the favorite to win the league. All right, they're going to be picked likely number one. But if I think back to kind of how things have gone since I've been covering the sport at SEC Media Days, Alabama was picked to win the league 11 out of 13 years from 2010 to 2022. And what's funny is the two times that they weren't picked in those 13 years, they actually won the league. So it's been a little bit chalky and predictable with the top of the polls the last handful of years. What I do think is interesting now, though, with the additions of Oklahoma, with the additions of Texas, and I think with the depth of the league, frankly, what is 2 through 7 or 2 through 8 going to look like? Okay. You look at some of these examples. Ole Miss has never had hasn't had expectations quite like this since Archie Manning was the quarterback. You look at what Texas comes into this season with, having been to the playoff last year, having experienced great success already under Steve Sarkisian. And now with the opportunity to host Georgia, perhaps, maybe they garner some attention there at the top. Alabama, there's new sheriff in town for the first time in 17 seasons. How will that be reflected in the polls? For instance, when I put together my top 25, and if you missed it, check it out. It's all over ESPN's YouTube page. My top 25 last year had 11 teams in the SEC in the top 25. I said last week, 11 teams in the top 25, which means I think teams 1 through 10, maybe not 1 through 10, but 4 through 10 might be more interchangeable than some people like to think. So that will be something that'll be really interesting. So number 9, I hope the media poll creates great debate before the season starts. At number 8, now that we're in a new era of college football, and we have the 12-team playoff, we have had this realignment, I really want the coaches to kind of pull back the curtain on how they felt about divisions. Now, the Big Ten has gotten rid of divisions. The ACC has gotten rid of divisions. The Big 12 has gotten rid of divisions a while ago when they played their round robin and they took their top 2 and they started the championship game. I believe it was in 2015 or 16. So all these leagues now have gotten rid of divisions, and there's long been a debate about, well, let's be real, man. The SEC West was harder than the SEC East. Or in some cases, the Big Ten East was way more difficult than the Big Ten West. And everybody knew that. And the Big Ten East completely dominated the Big Ten championship game for the better part of the last 10, 12 years. I want the coaches to just come out and be honest and say, yeah, you know what? Our division was way more difficult than the other. So I'm glad it's gone. Or vice versa. Hey, our division was pretty dang gettable. So I'm kind of disappointed that we don't have divisions anymore. Like, I want them to say that. I mean, the SEC is playing without divisions for the first time since 1991 this upcoming season. So maybe they'll give us and shed some light on, hey, yeah, you know what? That SEC West was a gauntlet. Man, I would have loved to have been in the East, or vice versa. I just think that would be kind of interesting. So that's wish number 8. Now the divisions are gone, I want to know how people really felt about where they were. At number 7, I'm from Dallas. Okay, originally from Los Angeles, California, but Dallas is my hometown. Full transparency, I've never been to really this part of Dallas. This is like South Dallas. We're staying at the Omni. It's a cool place, and this really is a phenomenal venue. I mean, we have gigantic stuff everywhere. But look, what I want to know is Dallas, when I've thought of college football, having grown up here, it's always felt like a Big 12 town. I'm just going to be honest. Like, I grew up a Big 12 fan. I grew up going to the Red River Shootout. Now it's the Red River Rivalry. Like, I always associated Dallas with the Big 12. Now, obviously, the landscape has changed drastically. When I was growing up, A&M was not in the SEC. We know that Missouri was not in the SEC. And, of course, Texas and Oklahoma were all in the Big 12 as well. So it's changed drastically, but I want Dallas to just put on a show. Look, Dallas is known for its glitz and glamour. We know that. I just want this to be a really, really cool event because this is my hometown. I'm proud to be back here, and I'm proud now that it is really considered at its core SEC country, which is a little ironic. I also, too, and this is like a secondary wish within this wish. I just want Dallas to put on a show and live up to the hype. This is a secondary wish within. I want to find out, and I'm sure we will when Greg Sankey takes to the podium here in just a little bit, where we're going next year. Are we going back to Atlanta? Are we going to Florida, perhaps, maybe Tampa or a place like that? Or maybe we can just go to the Bahamas. Let's just do it at Atlantis or something. Like, I don't care. Either way, I'm curious to know where we're going next because the footprint has expanded naturally, and now I'm kind of interested to see exactly where this, I guess, traveling roadshow, if you will take us. So that's number 7. At number 6, and this one is probably a little bit more serious. I want Greg Sankey to confirm that the conference is moving to 9 conference games scheduled beginning in 2026. We know that so far in this current iteration of scheduling, the SEC has adopted an 8-game conference schedule. Frankly, I don't blame them. I don't think the SEC is perceived differently than any other league because they play one less conference game. I think people still look at the SEC and they say, yep, it's the most athletic league. It is the league that has the most pros. It is the league that has the most hostile venues. I think that most people look at the SEC and have a pretty favorable reaction when thinking about the league. But I will be honest, like, I love the SEC too. I love all college football. I think you guys know that. But I would love it if everybody played by the same set of rules in regards to how many games they play in conference. Now, I think the one pushback is fair. I think 8 SEC games is more difficult than 9 ACC games. I think 8 SEC games is far more difficult than 9 Big 12 games. Just being honest. It's no disrespect. I'm just being honest. I think the gauntlet and the schedule is far more challenging in the SEC than you'll get in 2 of the 3 other Power 5 leagues. I think the Big 10 is comparable in challenge for sure. But at the same time, the Big 10's playing 9. I would like for the SEC to also play 9. So hopefully that's something that we get a little bit of transparency on moving forward. It's not going to happen in 2025. They already basically have the schedule set for 2025, but I do think it would be time to potentially rip everything up in 2024 and look ahead, 2026 and look ahead to maybe increasing the conference slate just a little bit. At number 5, I want there to be a serious debate about the quality of the rivalries in the SEC and which one's best. Is it likely going to ever result in a universally accepted top rivalry? No. It's not like the Big Ten where everybody just kind of acknowledges, yep, Ohio State, Michigan's the best. That's not going to happen down here. You have Texas and Oklahoma now in the league, and we already saw this in Destin. When you have Joe Castiglione, who's the AD at Oklahoma, and then you have Chris Del Conte, who's the AD at Texas, and they're kind of barbing at each other and say, yeah, Red River rivalry is the best rivalry in the league. Day one. Well, hang on a second. Whoa. All right. Whoa. I think people could potentially push back on that. I would like to maybe find out what people think. Like, even we did a blind poll amongst the coaches. Which rivalry is best in the SEC? And it can be totally anonymous. I don't care. But I'd kind of like to get everybody's take. Because I've always thought that some of the best rivalry, it's a little bit circumstantial, right? Like, the reason why I thought in my playing career, Alabama LSU was the best rivalry in the SEC. The reason why I thought that is because the vitriol that LSU fans had towards Nick Saban being the head coach at Alabama. So, like, that was the game that was like the most intense for us. Now, Iron Bowl was right there, and Iron Bowl always meant a lot, but it was at the end of the schedule. LSU was about week 8 or 9, so we had to play that one before we played the Iron Bowl. So naturally, we found ourselves thinking and talking maybe a little more about the LSU game than we were the Iron Bowl. All that being said, it's a little circumstantial. Now that Nick Saban is no longer coaching at Alabama, is Bama LSU the same level of hostility? I don't know. Florida Georgia's at a neutral site. If that game were to get moved to a home and home like Kirby Smart wants it to, would that take that thing from like third or fourth best rivalry to the top without question? Oklahoma, Texas. I've been to that game 9 times, 8 times as a fan, 1 time as a broadcaster. It is amazing. It is incredible. Just the collegial feel of the Red River rivalry is really, really neat. Texas A&M and Texas being renewed is something that I'm super excited about. And while that rivalry when I was growing up wasn't quite as big as Oklahoma, Texas, I know from an Aggie perspective, there is no bigger game without question. Like they could try to make LSU, Texas, or A&M like into something the last handful of years. No, Texas A&M and Texas returning this year. And I think you want to just take year by year level of hostility. That might be number 1 right now. It really might. You want to talk about loathing your opposition. A&M right now very much loathes the fact that Texas is in the league. And I think they're very excited about getting them in Kyle Field there at the end of November. So I want there to be a legitimate debate about what the best rivalries are in the SEC. And if we have to do an anonymous, poll to get it, I'd be happy to engage without question. At number 4, I want Lane Kiffin to come in and deliver a few one-liners. Look, it's understandable, and it's with a heavy heart that he'll be attending media days this year. Monty Kiffin, his dad, passed away on Friday, and it's, Monty Kiffin's a legend. I mean, just an absolute legend. So I'm sure Lane is dealing with that from an emotional standpoint for sure. And I almost guarantee that he will pay tribute to his dad, and rightfully so. I mean, his dad is awesome. And rest in peace, man. He was just a great football mind. I got to play against him when he was the defensive coordinator in 2009 at the Tennessee Volunteers. Man, he had some stuff. I mean, he had some really good stuff, tough to play against. So I got a lot of respect for Monty Kiffin, and really I'm sad that Lane has to take to the podium just 3 days after his passing. But having put this list together a little bit before that transpired, I do think that Ole Miss is coming in. And there have been years where Ole Miss has had high expectations. Like, you Ole Miss fans can maybe help me out with this, but I'm thinking back. I mean, it's not like they've never been in the preseason top 10 before. It's definitely happened. I think in 2009 with Jevon Sneed returning, they had a team that was really well respected after a Cotton Bowl victory the year before. I think in the Hugh Freeze era, whether it was 2015, maybe even 2016, in that vicinity, they were certainly one of those teams that was probably regularly in the top 7, 8, 9, 10. Either way, I want Lane Kiffin to come in and just start throwing haymakers. And he has changed his personality a little bit, right? He's changed a little bit in the last handful of years. He's not quite as brash as he once was. Like, his off-the-cuff delivery early in his career was really refreshing. But now he's a little bit more buttoned up, and I don't think he's going to just come in and go scorched earth. But it would be kind of fun if he did. That's why it's one of my wishes for this upcoming week. So I want Lane Kiffin to come in and throw some heat like Steve Spurrier did back in the day. At number 3, I want there to be just open trash talk. I mean, I really, really want Mike Elko to come out and say, yeah, we're the team from Texas that's going to be here in the league. Like, I want Jeff Levy to come in and say, yeah, you know what? We own the state of Mississippi. I don't care where the Ole Miss Rebels are ranked. Like, I want there to be legitimate trash talk, because we don't have that anymore. Like, remember the time when like Spurrier would come out and say, hey, you can't spell citrus without UT. Like, he'd come out and take jabs at Georgia about having players available or not in the first couple weeks of the season. Like, I'm not going to get into the details. Like, you can go and look. But there was a time when it was pretty much openly accepted to just trash talk your rivals. I know that that's gone away, and it now has kind of been turned, and it becomes billboard material and all this other stuff. But like, it would make an event like this really fun, right? I mean, it would make all of us, I think, probably laugh. And I don't think anyone would take it too personal. The closest we got to trash talk at media days was a couple years ago, Shane Beamer against Mark Stoops. Do y'all remember this interaction? Like, it was the closest we got. Mark Stoops was talking about, hey, in order to change a culture, you have to do this, that, and the other. You can't just put on sunglasses, dance around, and, act crazy in the locker room after a win or before a game. And Shane Beamer obviously took that to heart. And I can understand. I don't think Mark Stoops was intending to just bring Shane Beamer into this. I really don't believe he was. But Shane Beamer clearly took it very personal, and then all of a sudden went on the offensive with sunglasses, hats, and like all these other things that I guess kind of spiced up that game for at least 12 months. Now, I don't think anybody's sitting there looking at Kentucky and South Carolina now and saying, oh, that rivalry there now. Nobody's saying that, but it was really, really fun in media days to see the reaction from Beamer. And obviously, I don't think Stoops, like I said, Stoops did not intend to throw fire on the situation, but just came out a little sideways. But I'd go with it. I mean, if the fans are going to talk trash all the time, and I see it all the time, by the way, in our YouTube comments and stuff like that, they're talking trash. I remember last week, like, all these Michigan fans are bent out of shape that I have them at number 11. Like, they're talking major trash. And Ohio State fans are reacting to them, talking trash to them. It's like, if it's okay for the fans, why isn't it okay for the coaches? I'd be great with it. At number 2, back to a little bit more serious conversation here. And I don't think this is likely to happen, but I really would love for it to happen. I want Greg Sankey to enlighten us on the process of further expansion and how something like that would occur. Now, a lot of this kind of centers around the conversation that's going on with Clemson and Florida State. We know that they are right now challenging the Bill of Rights. The Grant of Rights, not the Bill of Rights. Two different things. Grant of Rights and Bill of Rights, very, very different. So I apologize for that faux pas. It is about 6:20 a.m. and I've had about 4 sips of coffee. So going to have a couple of misspeaks today on a day that should be pretty long. But either way, I would really like to know where, in the event in which a conference were to further expand, okay? And I'm not even necessarily suggesting the SEC. Big 10, Big 12, whatever, okay? In the event in which Clemson and Florida State get out of their grant of rights with the ACC, which I've said in the past, I think it'll happen, but it's going to cost them. It's going to be very, very expensive. I look at it, what does the process look like to add them? And I don't think Greg Sankey would ever expound on that. But I'd really like to know. I don't think the SEC, frankly, would be in line to add Clemson and Florida State. I don't. Maybe I'll be dead wrong. I'll eat crow. I'll tell you I was wrong. I don't care. Based on what I've heard, Clemson and Florida State are not a likely option for the SEC. Now, they might be for the Big 10, and they certainly are for the Big 12. That's understood. But in the event in which they were to gain freedom, what does the next step look like in that scenario? And I don't think Greg Sankey would be able to really tell us a whole lot, but it would be kind of interesting to hear what it was like behind the scenes when Texas and Oklahoma were ultimately added to this league, and what it was like behind the scenes. Maybe Tony Petitti can enlighten us, even though he wasn't directly involved. What was it like behind the scenes when SC and UCLA ultimately decided to join the Big Ten. But what went down? And maybe someday somebody will write a book, and I can't wait to read it, but I don't expect that to happen this week. And then lastly, this is number one wish. SEC Media Days is fun. It is. I'm not going to try to sit here and say it's not. I enjoy it. There's a lot of media members in this room that I'm friends with, and I see them once a year. Outside of the occasional, hey, grab a hot dog at the press box as we're calling a game. So I don't get to see. It's always really fun. It's always really social. It's always really great to see everybody. And it's always cool, too, to hear what the coaches have been working on for the last 12 months. I mean, it's their one opportunity. It's their State of the Union for their program. So for those of us that don't consume their daily pressers, like, this is a big opportunity for us to kind of take a peek and listen to what they have going on and what their priorities are for this upcoming season. So I always kind of look forward to it. I also always look forward to, there will be a story this week that one of the players shares that will, definitely, it will touch us all in a good way. There'll be something that we get from one of these players that will be a big story, and it will be a heartwarming story about maybe something they're doing off the field or something that they play for, their why, if you will. So I think it'll be a great week. I really believe that. But in recent years, we have not had a whole lot on Thursday when things are wrapping up. I feel like we've kind of looked at each other like, man, that was kind of an uneventful week. Like, the coaches didn't really give us a whole lot. There weren't the jabs that we had growing up with Spurrier and Fulmer and Saban and so many others. So I'm hoping, and my number one wish is that this week delivers and a coach makes it memorable. I don't care what it was. And one of the greatest moments ever at SEC Media Days was from an interim head coach at Vanderbilt. Go look up Robbie Caldwell in 2010. You can't even see the video, I might add. But you can read the transcript. I want something like that. Now, I don't think it's likely because these guys are so buttoned up and they are obviously so good at what they do. And in many cases, they're making $9 million a year. So I don't expect them to talk about, raising turkeys on the farm or anything like that. I believe that's what Robbie Caldwell talked about. I can't recall off the top of my head, but it was an amazing, amazing rant on his life growing up. And it was one that I will never forget. I obviously forgotten the specific details of it, but I'll never forget how much he made me laugh when watching that back in 2010. But I just want a coach to step up, throw a jab, give us a one-liner, give us a hot take, and let us kind of conversate about it for the next 6 weeks, because we have only a few more weeks until camps get underway, and we only have about 6 weeks until the season gets underway. So those are our 10 wishes for 2024 SEC Media Days from Dallas, Texas. That'll do it for us here at Always College Football. Please continue to like, rate, and subscribe to the show. Wherever you get your show, we will be here at SEC Media Days all week long. So check our social media at Always CFB, at Greg McElroy. We're going to do some behind-the-scenes stuff that we will be putting out on those platforms. So check us out there. There might be something or two things that you like, maybe you have some fun with. So please continue to check back to. We'll do a show a little later in the week that kind of sums up Media Days and puts a bow on maybe some of the things we learned from the past few days. So for all of us here at Always College Football, from Mark, Jake, Jack, the other Jack, I'm Greg. We hope you have an amazing day. And remember, it's always college football.
Hey guys, it's Greg McElroy. Thanks for watching Always College Football. Make sure you like, rate, and subscribe to ESPN's YouTube channel and wherever you listen to your podcasts.